Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Barbara Jimenez, and I'm the Executive Lead for the County of San Diego Independent Redistricting Commission, and I am the facilitator for today's virtual education tour on why redistricting matters in San Diego County. And I'll be handling the technical aspects of today's Zoominar webinar. We'll be using closed captioning during today's meeting. So if you find them distracting or you would prefer not to see them, you can adjust your settings by clicking the CC Live Transcript button, which is on the bottom middle of the main Zoom window, and just select Hide Subtitles. If you're joining on your mobile device and you'd like to turn off closed captionings, please just go to the navigation panel, click Account Management, then Account Settings. And from there, you can click on the meeting tab, and under the section that says meeting, it says advanced, just toggle to enable or disable next to the closed captioning. So I'm just going to give everyone a few minutes to make any adjustments before we get started, and we'll get started in just 1 minute. Okay, again, welcome to everyone. If you have any questions during this education session, you are welcome to submit a question using the Zoom Q&A function anytime during the meeting. You can find the Q&A button on the bottom center of the main Zoom window. Your questions will then be answered during the Q&A portion of the meeting. I also want to mention that we're recording today's meeting, and it'll be available for viewing on our IRC website. And today's session is the 4th of 5 planned educational sessions, 1 for each district. This one's been designated for District 3, but because all our meetings are virtual, all are welcome to attend any session. And we're really happy to have you here, no matter where you live in the county. So live language interpretation for these meetings are available if requested in at least 24 hours in advance of the meeting. If you'd like to request live translation for another one of the education sessions, you can call us or email our redistricting inbox. Our contact information will be provided during today's presentation. So I'm really excited to get started. Let me begin by introducing our speakers, both of whom live in District 3. First up, we have Co-Vice Chair Amy Caterina. She's an investor relations and corporate communications consultant in the biotechnology industry, providing investor relations, public relations, marketing communications, and corporate communications consulting services. She's a board member for a nonprofit organization focusing on advancing lymphedema care in the United States, and she also serves on the Canyon Crest Academy High School Site Council. She also volunteers as a merit badge counselor for the San Diego Imperial Council of the Boy Scouts of America. Welcome, Co-Vice Chair Caterina. Next, I'd like to introduce Commissioner Ramesses Serban. He was a former urban planner for nearly a decade and now strengthens the community by enforcing fair housing laws with San Diego's largest legal services provider. In keeping with his commitment to public service, Commissioner Serban previously served several terms as a member of the Rancho Penasquitos Town Council and Rancho Penasquitos Planning Board. He's a first-generation immigrant, a proud San Diegan, and he's a UC San Diego and California Western School of Law graduate. We thank the commissioners for their time today, for their service on the San Diego County Independent Redistricting Commission. So without further delay, I'll now turn it over to our first speaker today, Co-Vice Chair Caterina.
Thank you, Barbara. On behalf of my colleague, Commissioner Serban, I would like to welcome you to this educational forum on redistricting in San Diego County. As previously stated during opening comments, since this is an educational event and not a public hearing, we are unable to take any input today on maps, district boundaries, or communities of interest. However, we want and encourage your input on those issues, and we will provide information later in our presentation on how you can provide input. Thanks again for being here. Here's what we're covering today. First, what is redistricting? Second, who are the Independent Redistricting Commission, or the IRC, and what do we do? Third, we'll share why redistricting matters and why it's important. And finally, we'll share with you how you can participate, because as you will find out, your participation is very important to us. Before we get started, we want to conduct a short poll to gauge your thoughts and understanding on redistricting. From a scale of 0 to 4, How much do you know about redistricting? 0 being you know little to nothing on redistricting, and 4 being you are an expert at this. I'll give you a few moments to respond. Well, it looks like we have a fairly mixed group today, with some answering they're not very familiar with redistricting, to some saying they're fairly familiar with it. Hopefully, our presentation today may help any lingering questions that you may have. For the next question, again on a scale of 0 to 4, can you tell us how important do you think redistricting is? 0 being not important at all, and 4 being extremely important. I will give you a few minutes to respond to this question as well. Wow, it looks like a lot of you think that this is very important. And we agree with you. We'll talk more about the redistricting process later on in the presentation and share with you in greater detail why redistricting is a vital process to our democracy. I'll turn it over now to Commissioner Serban to share with us what redistricting is.
Thank you, Commissioner Katarina. And thank you to the county staff, especially Barbara, for all her work on putting this together and for the very generous introduction. And thank you for all the attendees that are here and recognize how important the redistricting process is. We very much appreciate you participating and hearing what we have to say today. So, what is redistricting? Let me tell you. Redistricting is the process of redrawing district boundaries for each of our 5 supervisorial districts so that each has roughly equivalent population. So we redraw new boundaries every 10 years based on census data. And as you know, our federal government conducts a census every 10 years where it counts all individuals residing in the United States at the location in which they live. Counting everyone who lives in our county, state, and country is important because our Constitution sets population as the basis for sharing political power. Currently, the county redistricting process occurs simultaneously with the state's own redistricting efforts, led by the California Citizen Redistricting Commission, along with redistricting efforts in various cities and districts throughout the county, state, and nation. So while we encourage you to stay tuned and participate in all the redistricting efforts underway, our presentation today is focused solely on the redistricting for the supervisorial districts for the entire county of San Diego, which is a separate process from the respective cities' redistricting efforts and the states. The county IRC is responsible only for redrawing the lines of the 5 districts of the San Diego County Board of Supervisors. So why do we draw new boundaries? Well, a lot changes in 10 years. Think about your own neighborhood and communities and the changes that have happened over the last 10 years. Those changes are happening all over the county. Communities may grow because babies are born, people move into neighborhoods, or they move from one place in the county to another place in the county. Communities shrink in population because people die or move out of the county or move to another part of the county. Areas where there were once roughly the same number of people become unequal. And these shifts can affect what that community looks like or who was and is a part of it. And those populations and demographic changes can impact a community's priorities, interests, and goals. So why are new redistricting boundaries drawn? Well, you'll see on the slide an illustration of this process. On the left, you'll see a community with the population equally divided among its districts. Now, in the center image, you can see how a population can change over time as it experiences the kind of shifts that I just described. And as a result, some of these districts become unbalanced. The image on the far right shows how redrawing boundaries in a process called redistricting addresses those changes so that they are once again equal in population. We redraw boundaries every 10 years in a process called redistricting so that they are equal in population and will allow for fair representation. Co-Vice Chair Katarina, would you share with us all a little bit more about the Independent Redistricting Commission, please?
We've explained what redistricting is, and you may be wondering who gets to draw the new district boundaries. The Independent Redistricting Commission, the IRC, is responsible for drawing the boundaries for the 5 supervisory districts in San Diego County. We are a commission of 14 citizen volunteers who were selected from an initial pool of nearly 300 applicants. That initial pool was narrowed by the clerk of the Board of Supervisors to the 60 most qualified applicants. All commissioners completed an application that involved explaining how their experiences and education indicated they met the required qualifications to be a commissioner, including possessing analytical skills, the ability to understand state and federal laws, the ability to be impartial, and knowledge of and appreciation for the diversity of the county. Then a random drawing was conducted to select the first 8 members from those 60 applicants. These initial 8 commissioners then reviewed the remaining applications and selected the final 6 commissioners based on the qualifications I just mentioned. But they also had to consider other criteria such as party affiliation, because the commission is required to reflect the political party breakdown of the county, Democrats, Republicans, or no party preference. The commission must also be representative of the county's diversity. So the commissioners also had to consider other factors such as gender, ethnicity, race, and geography. Here is our County of San Diego Independent Redistricting Commission, and I am pleased to say that our commission satisfies all the requirements. We are a pretty diverse crew of 7 women and 7 men, evenly distributed from the 5 districts. In terms of party affiliation, we closely mirror the county breakdown. We are 6 Democrats, 4 Republicans, and 4 no party preference, and bring a wide variety of backgrounds, experiences, and expertise to the commission. This slide also shows the ethnic breakdown of the commissioners compared to the county. I'm excited to be part of this worthy project and to be serving alongside these committed citizen volunteers. I'll now pass it back to Commissioner Serban to share what makes San Diego County unique in the scene of redistricting.
Thank you, Commissioner Katarina. In the last redistricting, the Board of Supervisors were responsible for adopting their electoral maps. Historically, politicians drew the electoral maps that were used in their elections. Indeed, that's still the case in most of the country, and too often, the result is maps that serve political interests rather than the public good, and maps where gerrymandering is common. We are fortunate in San Diego County to be one of only 4 counties in the state who've placed the responsibility of drawing boundaries in the hands of citizens like our IRC and away from elected officials. I want to emphasize that we must follow strict, nonpartisan criteria, which we will cover in a moment, to ensure that impartiality and fairness are the basis for drawing district boundaries, as well as upholding the ideal of one person, one vote. These rules will prevent unfair practices such as gerrymandering and should result in fairer maps where citizens can elect someone who will represent them. For now, I want to emphasize that we operate as an independent commission, which means we are independent from the influence of elected officials. We are responsible for conducting the redistricting process in an open and transparent manner, and we are committed to making it possible for as many broad and diverse voices to be heard in this process. Here is the list of the commission's duties. We must hold public meetings. We've regularly scheduled IRC meetings twice monthly. We must conduct public hearings so that we can learn about the community and especially about communities of interest. We will gather public testimony, then draw maps. And lastly, after we've gone through a public, transparent process, we will adopt the final map that will be used for supervisor elections for the next decade. Again, we are an independent commission of citizen volunteers. We operate completely independently from the influence of any elected officials, and we are accountable only to you, the public, in our duties to draw fair and accurate maps for the county. With that, I'll pass it over to Co-Vice Chair Katarina to share some criteria which we must follow when drawing these new boundaries.
Thank you, Commissioner Serban. I'm going to talk now about the criteria that the IRC is required to use to draw new boundaries. The criteria are listed in the order of priority in which they must be applied. 1. The first criteria is one that's already been mentioned. Districts must be of nearly equal population. This rule is required by the US Constitution. We expect to have roughly 650,000 residents in each district. Next, we must make sure that we create a map that complies with the Voting Rights Act to ensure that minorities have a fair opportunity to elect representatives of their choice. Districts must also be drawn contiguously so that all parts of the district are connected to each other. Districts must minimize the division of cities, counties, neighborhood, and communities of interest to the extent possible. And districts should be geographically compact such that nearby areas of population are not bypassed for more distant population. This requirement refers to density, not shape. In addition, the place of residence of any incumbent or political candidate may not be considered in the creation of a map, and districts may not be drawn for the purpose of favoring or discriminating against an incumbent, political candidate, or political party. The changing map on the right reflects the changes in our county's district boundaries from 1991 through 2011. There are additional criteria that apply only to San Diego County. 3 of the 5 districts must include incorporated areas, and 2 of these districts have to be comprised primarily of unincorporated areas. As a point of reference, the County of San Diego includes 18 incorporated cities, mostly in the western part of the country, as you can see on the map. But much of the county is unincorporated territory, land outside the boundaries of the 18 incorporated cities. As we noted earlier, our own redistricting efforts are occurring simultaneously with other jurisdictions. For example, the City of San Diego, the City of Escondido, and the City of Chula Vista, all located within the County of San Diego, have similar commissions and are currently in the process of redrawing their own district boundaries. On this slide, you can see District 3 and how it encompasses the most central part of the county. This region spans from Carmel Valley to Tierra Santa and Escondido to Encinitas. These set of neighborhoods consist of nearly 700,000 residents who are economically, ethnically, and generationally diverse. District 3 includes 5 incorporated cities, including nearly a dozen distinct neighborhoods within the city of San Diego. The southwest boundary includes Sorrento Valley and the Torrey Pines Mesa, where there are thriving hubs of pharmaceutical and biotechnology companies that are pioneering and revolutionizing DNA and stem cell research. Many of San Diego County's beautiful beaches and coastal landscapes can be found on the western edge of District 3 in communities like Del Mar, Solana Beach, Cardiff by the Sea, Encinitas, and Leucadia. The inland regions of the district feature mountains and hillsides among open canyon preserves. Commissioner Serban, can you share why redistricting matters?
Certainly. Thank you, Co-Vice Chair Katarina. So why does redistricting matter? Redistricting matters because how maps are drawn and how communities and neighborhoods get grouped together or separated can affect whose voices are heard on election day. Redistricting done properly and fairly ensures that communities can elect a representative of their choice. From the point of view of redistricting at the county level, it's worth mentioning that our County Board of Supervisors operates a budget of over $6.5 billion. Yes, B with a B, billion. The county is the responsible agency for providing, among other things, public health, like all the services around the COVID-19 response, including the distribution of vaccines, as well as election services, voter registration, roads, parks, law enforcement, social services like CalFresh and Medi-Cal, public safety. The county does a lot. So whether you live in an incorporated city or in an unincorporated area of the county, and I know this can get confusing, but the decisions made by our supervisors about how the county budget gets allocated and spent will affect you. It's important that you and your community have a fair chance to elect a supervisor who will represent you in making these budget decisions. Redistricting also matters because it can affect a community's ability to elect a representative of their choice. So this slide illustrates that point. You can see two diagrams of the same population. In each, they've been divided into 4 equal districts. But in the image on the top, you can see a map where the minority population, which makes up 25% of the entire population, has been separated and thus effectively silenced. The minority population in that scenario is not likely to have a fair shot at electing someone who will represent them. In the bottom image, you see an alternative scheme, one that keeps this minority population largely intact so that they are now a majority of the population in one district, empowering them to have their voices heard. It's a fairer map where one of the 4 districts is majority minority, which accurately reflects the population. 1 out of 4 residents is a member of that minority. Redistricting can keep people with common interests, identity, language, and history bundled together so they can effectively advocate for themselves and make their voices heard in local affairs. Conversely, it can gerrymander those same people and silence their voices. Gerrymandering, as you may know, is the practice of dividing or arranging election districts in a way that gives one political party an unfair advantage in elections. Independent redistricting commissions like ours in San Diego County provide a safeguard against gerrymandering and help promote drawing of fair maps where people can elect representatives of their choice. Co-Vice Chair Katarina, could you please tell us about the data that the IRC will use to draw these new boundaries?
Absolutely. We've talked about what redistricting is and who is responsible for redistricting and what criteria are used in redistricting. But what about the data? How will the IRC know what changes in population have taken place so that they can draw new boundaries? First, we will get the census data obtained from the 2020 census count, which will come to us in a variety of ways. Second, we will use public input, information that we gather from you to help us learn about and understand the communities of interest. A community of interest, or COI for short, is a population that shares common social or economic interests that should be included within a single district for purposes of its effective and fair representation. Communities of interest are not defined by their relationships with political parties, incumbents, or political candidates. Again, a community of interest is one that shares a common social or economic interest. A COI might coalesce around the fact that it shares a common culture or common language, but there are many ways to define a COI. For example, a COI might be a neighborhood that is adjacent to a shipping port because that community shares a common interest in pertaining to dealing with the impacts or effects of having a shipping port as a neighbor. A critical source of information, maybe the most critical source about COIs, will necessarily come from the public, from people telling us about their community of interest. The census data will give us some information about the neighborhoods and communities, but it won't necessarily tell us about issues and concerns that bring a community together. So how do you know if you belong to a COI? Does your neighborhood share certain celebrations or traditions like street festivals or parades? Are there important places where your community gathers like parks or community centers? What is the history of how your community came together? Other questions you may ask: are you part of a community who has issues that have not been adequately addressed by your elected officials? Has your community come together to advocate for important services like better schools or roads or health centers? Have you worked for more recognition or support for your community, like having holidays recognized or historical events commemorated? These are kinds of factors or interests that might help identify a community of interest. I want to remind you that today we cannot take information about communities of interest. We will do that during public hearings over the summer. This is an educational session for you to learn about redistricting, but there are many ways, and we will offer the public many opportunities to tell us about their communities of interest, and we will be sure to provide you with that information. We will be conducting a minimum of 7 public hearings starting mid-summer. These hearings are intended to give the residents of San Diego County the opportunity to participate in the redistricting process by providing us public input on your community of interest. But you do not need to attend one of these hearings to provide public input on your COI. You can provide oral testimony at a public hearing or submit written testimony at any time via email or regular mail. You can also draw a map. We will have an electronic tool on our website shortly, and you can submit a paper map. You can provide as much detail as you can about your community and the characteristics or issues that bind you together and why you should not be separated. There's a lot that needs to be accomplished during the redistricting process. Commissioner Servan will share with you a bit about our redistricting timeline.
Thank you, Co-Vice Chair Katarina. So here's a timeline that shows the activities and the timing that the IRC is planning from now until the final map is adopted. It begins in June, although we got started and have been busy since last fall. You'll see we are currently in the education tour phase, which are the events like the one today, which we will conduct now through early to mid-July. In mid-July, we expect to begin public hearings, which Co-Vice Chair Katarina was just talking about, in which we will be learning and gathering as much information as we can about communities of interest that exist throughout the county. In mid to late August, we expect the US Census Bureau to release raw data to the states. That data has to be processed by the state, and the official redistricting database, the data we need to start drawing the boundaries, is expected to become available to the IRC in late September. Shortly after that, in early to mid-October, the IRC will begin drawing draft maps. Each draft map will be published and made available for public comment, and we will also be holding at least 2 public hearings during this map drawing phase to hear from the public about the proposed new boundaries. Our current deadline to adopt the final map for the county is December 15th. But please remember, this is a tentative timeline based on current information, and all the dates, including the final map adoption deadline, are subject to change. I'd like to speak for a minute about why the timeline is tentative. You may have heard that the census data has been delayed. In fact, it has been significantly delayed, affected by a number of things, not least of them the COVID-19 pandemic. Typically, the census data would have arrived by April, when we would be finished with our work by the end of the summer. Instead, we are still waiting for that data, which, as I said, will not arrive until mid-August. The initial delay from the Census Bureau resulted in an extension of the map adoption deadline to December 15th. However, there have been further delays, and we don't know if the map adoption deadline will be extended even further. So stay tuned. Our priority is to ensure that the public has ample opportunity to participate in the redistricting process, and to also ensure that the IRC has the time we need to gather all the information to draw fair and accurate maps. Delays are usually not desirable, of course, but we view the extra time as a bonus. We can use it for the IRC to dig deep and learn as much as we can about the county, its diverse communities, and especially about communities of interest. The extra time is a bonus for the public as well, as it gives communities more time to work together, organize, and advocate for themselves. So I'd like to end with a story of why public input matters. It's a specific example of a community right here in San Diego County, where public input made a difference. So prior to the last redistricting cycle in 2010, the Barrio Logan community was split between two county supervisorial districts with a portion assigned to District 1 and another portion of the community assigned to District 4. During the 2010 redistricting process, community members let the county know that their community had been separated, and the community forwarded a request to the county to be unified in one supervisorial district. And so when the map was redrawn, Barrio Logan was restored and assigned wholly to District 1 in response to this community output. So that might not have happened were it not for this public input. So I'll go ahead and let Co-Vice Chair Katarina share with you how you can participate in this redistricting process yourself.
Thank you. As promised at the beginning of this meeting, here are ways for the public to participate in the San Diego County redistricting process. Attend our meetings, regularly scheduled IRC meetings, public hearings, and you can offer public comment there. Currently, all our meetings are held virtually, and they are all open to the public. All meetings, public hearings will be published on our website. You can visit our website to get that information. You can spread the word to others to attend one of these events. There is one more scheduled this month, or you can request a presentation. We will do as many of these as we can and as are requested. Go to our website and click on the Invite a Commissioner to Speak button to make your request. Even if you don't attend a meeting, presentation, or hearing, you can always submit your comments via email or regular mail. The address is on the slide. Finally, to stay informed about what is happening, you can subscribe to our email list to receive information about the meetings, hearings, and other information about our redistricting process. Soon, we will have a tool available on our website that will allow you to draw a map describing your community of interest. Keep checking. This concludes our presentation for today, but Commissioner Servin and I want to make sure that you leave today's presentation with a few takeaways. First, redistricting only happens once every 10 years. Residents of San Diego County have a once-in-a-decade opportunity to engage in the redistricting process. Don't miss your chance to help us draw the maps we will be using for the next decade. Commissioner Servin, what else would you like our audience to take away?
Thank you, Coach Vice Chair Katarina. I would like our audience to be assured that we, the County Independent Redistricting Commission, are committed to drawing fair and accurate maps for our 5 supervisorial districts to ensure that you, the public, have a fair chance to elect a supervisor who represents you. We're also committed to making it possible to hear from as broad and diverse a population from all corners of the county, Let us know how we can make this happen. We cannot do this work without your input. Please help us do the best job that we can for you. Thank you.
If you would like to contact the IRC, please reach out via email, phone, or through our website. We want and need to hear from you. And with that, I'll conclude the presentation and turn it back to Barbara to facilitate the question and answer portion of the meetings.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Co-Vice Chair Katarina and Commissioner Serban for doing such a superb job on really illustrating the complexities of this entire process. And as Co-Vice Chair Katarina mentioned, we'll now move into the question and answer portion of the meeting. We have received some questions from our attendees throughout the course of the presentation, and I'll read them to you all. And commissioners, you can decide which one of you will answer or if both of you will answer. So let me go ahead and try bring up the first one. We want to submit comments for a community of interest. Do we have to do this separately? Can we do this as a group? The draw a map is difficult to use. Can we do as a group?
If you'd like, Commissioner Serban, I'll go ahead and do an initial response, and then if you have anything you want to add from there, that would be fine. So one thing is there are a variety of different types of mapping services available, public programs that you can access, including the one that's offered by the California State Redistricting Commission. The San Diego County IRC is going to be developing our own map. For example, when you provide a map through the We Draw the Line site, that goes to the state. And it's really in reflection of our state Senate and assembly seats, as well as our congressional seats. Any data that is provided to us through our site will be used specifically for our county supervisorial districts. So you may submit one map individually, or you may submit it as a group. That's up to you. Anything you want to add to that, Commissioner Serban?
Sure. So the Draw a Map tool, we're working on developing that functionality, and that should be available once we have our demographic consultant who will work on getting that together and then posting it live on the internet. So as far as Draw Map, that's I would say to you that that's in process, and we're working to make it as easy to use as possible. As far as how to submit comments as a community of interest, I would suggest, if the question is, do you submit a comment as an individual, or whether individuals can organize as a community of interest and submit a comment in that manner, both, of course, can be done. I would imagine that an organized effort that purports to speak for a group of individuals is probably will have a different commissioners will probably lend that a little different weight than a comment that would be made by a single individual. I don't know. I don't want to speak for other commissioners, but you can imagine how that might be weighed. So.
Great, thank you. And I know you both wanted me to remind everyone our next IRC meeting is tomorrow evening, in fact. And tied to this comment, it's at 5:30 p.m. and it's virtual, is we're actually on the agenda. The commissioners will be introducing our new demographer. So that's going to be a great opportunity for the community to hear more about what that demographer is going to bring to the table and that tool that you both described. So thank you very much. Okay, let's go to the next question. Where can we get a summary of this presentation?
Well, that's easy. Because we are part of a public organization, we provide and we intend to continue to be transparent and provide the public with the information that they need to understand how we are going about our business as an independent redistricting commission. If you go to our website, you will see that we have the previous educational tour slides in the other districts already posted, and you can click on a link. This particular presentation will, I'm sure, be shortly showing up on our website.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Serban, was there anything else you'd like to add, or?
No, that was the answer. Thank you.
Perfect. Here's one for both of you. So this seems like a big job. What made you want to volunteer?
Would you like to answer that first, Commissioner Serban?
Sure. So my involvement in the redistricting process started in 2010 when the state first went through its initial redistricting process at the time. And my participation in that was as a member of a community of interest advocating on behalf of groups to draw to hopefully elicit proposed maps that would then become final maps that would recognize the communities of interest that I was advocating on behalf of. And then also again in 2014 and I think 2012. I think 2012, the city of San Diego went through the process, and 14, the city of Chula Vista went through it again. I was also involved in those two processes, again, as a community of interest advocate. In 2016, the presidential election, I conducted poll monitoring to ensure language access to the polls. So I'm just very interested in electoral law. I'm an attorney, so I practice. I don't practice electoral law. I do housing discrimination, but I'm very, very interested in electoral law. I'm really interested in redistricting because I think it's the basis of our electoral power. Our political power is, voting is our fundamental democratic right, and the way it expresses itself is through redistricting. And if redistricting goes wrong, there's a lot that can go wrong. And I wanted to make sure that, it's not like I'm an expert and it's not like I know everything, but I wanted to, because I felt like I knew a little bit of something, I wanted to be a part of a process that I felt I could contribute to.
That's great. I wish I had as good a story as you do. I think one of the things that's really great about our commission is that we all bring different skills to the table. Generally, for me, I became involved because I'm very interested in this process, and I'm interested in making sure that our districts are set up in the fairest way possible, and so that we don't have any gerrymandering occurring at the county level. And I'm a person who likes to help out. I have a job. I do a lot of volunteer work, and this was something that really spoke to me, and I thought I could make a difference. So here I am. Back to you, Barbara.
Thank you. And it's amazing to see all the attendees, and we want to thank them again because this is critical, very important. Community engagement is key, and I thank all the commissioners and both of you just for your dedication, because it is a volunteer job, and it's a very busy volunteer job. So it requires that passion and dedication that you both talked about. So on behalf of the county, thank you. So we have another question. How are you increasing awareness of redistricting to increase public awareness, participation, and engagement?
Well, interestingly, both Commissioner Serban and I serve on the ad hoc committee for community outreach, so we can both address this, and we have been very busy in doing so. These educational tours are just one example of the type of outreach that we are doing and that we will continue to do as we move forward through the process. If you attend our meeting tomorrow, you will hear the county procurement department's disclosure of their process to choose a outreach coordinator for the IRC. and which we will investigate and discuss during the call tomorrow. So we will be having additional hearings over the summer. As I mentioned earlier, there are 7 public hearings that will take place. And then in the fall, we'll have additional hearings on the actual maps where you can look at a proposed map and give us feedback on that map. So there are lots of opportunities. I would definitely encourage everyone to join our distribution list on the website, so you'll get an email update when we are having meetings. It will help you stay involved, and please share with your communities what's been going on with the Redistricting Commission, because this does affect, as Commissioner Servin said, every citizen in San Diego County. Is there anything you'd like to add, Commissioner Servin?
So 2 things I think are important as far as how it is that we are increasing awareness, participation, engagement. One, I'd like to mention that I personally been, and I think also the rest of this commission are very much committed to access. And by access, what I mean by that is this commission has spent, we've considered how it is that we can broaden the access to our materials. Like we've talked about translations, we've talked about, I mean, and I want to be able to offer all of the tools and the input processes in ways that can be accessible, whether it's like through, hopefully we can provide those in different languages and other means by which people can access those tools. I also want to say that aside from access, we're also discussing how it is that we can partner with certain trusted community organizations so that we can broaden our reach into certain, hopefully into communities that may not have typically participate in these sorts of processes. So personally, that's what I'm focused on trying to do, and I think our conversations and deliberations in the commission are advancing those efforts.
Great, thank you. Thank you both very much. So I want to make sure we leave enough time for the poll. So we have a couple of more questions. What we're going to do is get those answered, and we'll post them along with the responses and when we post the video. But before we go to the poll, I wanted to note there's a comment from one of the attendees. Thank you for your service, exclamation mark. So I think that's a perfect segue into our poll. So with that, on a scale from 0 to 4, how much do you know now about redistricting? 0 being little to nothing on redistricting, and 4 being you are an expert at this. We'll give that a couple of seconds while folks fill that out. Okay, so we have here a mix, but mostly on the higher end. So we're really happy to see many of you are now familiar with redistricting, and hopefully today's presentation has helped to answer any questions you have about the process. Again, any additional questions you have, you're always welcome to access the redistricting training continuum that we also have on our website. You can contact the commissioners via email, mail, or by phone for any questions you have. And again, we'll be posting this video and the questions and answers as well on our website. And so we have our last poll. On a scale of 0 to 4, how important do you now think redistricting is? 0 being not important and 4 being extremely important. Woo, 100%. That's great. That is exciting. So thank you very much, everyone. And so compared to what we saw earlier, I mean, a lot of folks earlier knew it was important, but that's really great to have these great results. So thank you everyone for providing your responses to these questions. Your feedback is really important in helping us determine how we can continue to tailor these presentations to really continuously, as the commissioners mentioned, It's about access, making sure we meet the needs of the community and the audience. And we appreciate your time. And you can also send us an email, send the commissioners an email at redistricting@sdcounty.ca.gov. And if you'd like to participate in any other virtual education tour sessions or invite others, there's one more scheduled. And I believe, yep, they've brought that up. Thank you, team. And also listed are the few upcoming IRC regular meetings. And you can always visit our IRC website for a full list. Again, live language interpretation for these meetings is available if requested at least 24 hours in advance. So with that, I'll go ahead and conclude today's meeting.
Barbara?
Let you wrap up.
Can I just address quickly a couple of these questions?
Sure.
There are a few other ones. So I'll read it. In redistricting, is there an opportunity to increase or decrease the number of districts? This is the number of districts in the county is set by the county charter. Not in the actual redistricting process will we be able to set the number of districts. Why are you doing this, and why should San Diegans want to be involved? We're doing it this way because this is how it's statutorily required under state law. San Diegans should want to be involved because the county determines how to spend over $6 billion, and that's important, among other reasons. Will this commission approve the final district maps, or is it the Board of Supervisors? The IRC is the body which will approve the final map, not the Board of Supervisors.
Perfect. Thank you. Any last comments, Commissioner Serban or Commissioner Katarina, before we wrap up?
I would just want to say thank you to everyone who attended. We appreciate your interest and your questions. And then I would like to recognize our district staff that works behind the scenes and as you see with Barbara, sometimes in front of the scene, to help us make this happen. And while we do act independently from the Board of Supervisors, the state law that set up these independent redistricting commissions provided the opportunity for us to work with the county staff and have them support our efforts. And I can tell you, we could not do this without them. So thank you to the staff, and thank you to my fellow commissioner, Commissioner Serban, and also to all the attendees. And please contact us if you have any questions.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure and a privilege to serve and work with you all. And thank you to all our attendees. Again, everything will be posted on www.sandiegocounty.gov/redistricting. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.